Please visit us again, Manager Sugimoto said. As an adult, make sure to pay for the services you used. Hearing this, my coworker Haruta and the women from the group outing smirked and giggled while looking at me mockingly. From their behavior, it was obvious that they had teamed up with this RIP off-bar to squeeze money out of me. I decided to confirm things directly with them. Just to clarify, I said, I used the bar for 1 hour and had one drink. Are you seriously charging me $20,000 for that? Sugimoto nodded slowly in response, and Haruta added with a smirk, you'd better pay up. Otherwise, things could get messy. The manager here knows some pretty scary people who don't operate in the public eye. With a sinister smile, Haruta exchanged glances with Sugimoto. It didn't matter to me whether they had gang connections or not. I grabbed the bill, stood up, and left. They'll regret what they've done soon enough. But by then, it'll be too late. Ignoring the insults hurled at my back, I walked out of the bar. My name is Yuichi Tamura. I'm in my 40s and work in construction, mainly focusing on infrastructure projects. People say it's respectable work, but I feel insecure about it. While my former classmates are doing desk jobs and wearing suits, I'm always in work gear, covered in dirt. The physical labor is tough, and I don't know how long my body will hold up. Though I'm not experiencing pain yet, I constantly deal with stiff shoulders and chronic fatigue. I know my work contributes to society, but I lack confidence in what I do. And there's something else that bothers me. Haruta, my senior at work, often drags me around, making it impossible for me to save any money. Hey, Yuichi, let's go drinking until morning. I found a great spot, Haruta said after today's work. Before he could catch me, I tried to leave quickly, but of course, he stopped me. The thought of staying out all night was exhausting, though it would be better than being forced to work without rest. Sometimes, Haruta doesn't let me go home until work starts the next day. After work, I'd much rather head home and recover from the day's exhaustion. But my workplace has a strict hierarchy. There's this unspoken rule that you can refuse a senior's request. Saying I'm going home today is out of the question. I put on a fake smile and responded to Haruta. Sounds like a great spot. You've got a knack for picking good places. Though my words were polite, they were dripping with sarcasm. The places Haruta picks always have mediocre food, and they're ridiculously expensive. I'm not the only one who thinks this. Other coworkers have made similar comments behind his back. Despite his poor taste, Haruta loves exploring new and pricey places, which gets on my nerves. But of course, my sarcasm flew right over Haruta's head. Haruta says with a proud face. Puffing up with pride, he said, "You know it, man. Even a guy like you who doesn't drink beer will have a great time at this place." I grimaced at Haruta's comment. From his tone, it was clear the place wasn't about food or drinks, but entertainment provided by the staff. Knowing it would cost even more than usual, I decided to come clean with Haruta. Haruta, I really appreciate the invite, but I'm on a tight budget right now. I'd love to join you, but I'll have to sit this one out. I almost never turn down Haruta's invitations, but this time I had to because of money. Since I wasn't making up an excuse, I thought I'd let it slide. But I was wrong. "Don't give me that crap," he snapped. "It's payday this week. Even if you're broke, just use your credit card. You'll have plenty of time to cover it before the bill comes." With that, Haruta grabbed my arm and half forced me to start walking. At this point, there was no escaping. I gave up on going home and reluctantly followed Haruta into the city with heavy steps. After a quick meal at a random diner Haruta picked, we headed to the great place he had found. Before entering, Haruta chatted with a suited man standing outside the entrance. Was he an acquaintance? Occasionally, Haruta pointed in my direction, likely explaining that he had brought someone along. Once inside, we were seated as directed, and two women joined us at our table. I'm not good at chatting with strangers, and I don't drink beer. I worried that the staff entertaining me might feel awkward, making it impossible for me to relax. The whole situation had me on edge. In contrast, Haruta was thoroughly enjoying himself, laughing and drinking. He generously ordered drinks for the women as well, but I couldn't help wondering how much the bill would be. As I glanced at the lively Haruta, a staff member finally brought the check. Haruta took the bill and, upon seeing the total, dramatically put his hands to his head. "Yuichi, I'm sorry. I forgot to bring cash today. Can you cover this for me?" I had already told him I didn't have money, and he was the one who told me to use my credit card if I was short on cash. Shouldn't he just use his credit card then? I spoke to Haruta with the softest tone and expression I could manage. "Haruta, give me a break. Show off that cool and manly side of yours, like when you order drinks for the ladies." The staff's gaze shifted to Haruta, their hopeful expression likely boosting his ego. Haruta pulled out his wallet, and I felt a glimmer of relief. But instead of reaching for his card, he put the wallet back into his chest pocket. Like he said, "I'm always the one paying for drinks. We'll give you the cash later, so just use your card today." At this point, it was clear Haruta had no intention of paying. Honestly, I hardly drank anything, and the whole time I was too tense to enjoy myself, so I didn't want to pay a cent. However, leaving the bill unpaid would inconvenience the staff. Suppressing a sigh, I reluctantly took the bill. When I saw the total, I was shocked. The amount was about 10 times what you'd expect to pay at a normal bar. It was undoubtedly because of the drinks and bottles Haruta had ordered, but of course, I couldn't confront him about it. With trembling hands, I handed over my credit card to settle the bill and left the bar. Outside, Haruta didn't even thank me. Instead, he said something outrageous. "You look so bored, Yuichi. I couldn't fully enjoy myself either. Don't make me or the staff feel awkward. What's next? That place over there looks fun." He pointed to another spot that clearly had the same type of entertainment with female staff. What is he even talking about, considering he doesn't intend to pay? Though we had planned to drink until morning, at this rate, my credit card limit would be maxed out, and next month's paycheck would be gone. This time, I firmly stood my ground and said clearly, "Sorry, but I think we should call it a night. It's not just about the money and not feeling too well." The excuse about my health was a lie. The truth was, being around Haruta made me feel sick. Perhaps he finally noticed my displeasure, as he responded coldly with an annoyed expression. "Do you have any idea how much I do for you? Fine. You're no fun to be around anyway. Let's end it here. Don't be late for work tomorrow." Relieved that I wouldn't be dragged around anymore, I gave a slight nod and quickly headed home. The next day, I went to the work site, but Haruta didn't show up on time. Today, Haruta and I are assigned to the same site. I thought it might be a bit awkward working with him, but maybe he's feeling unwell. The work is far too heavy for one person, but emotionally, it's easier without Haruta around. I felt something was off since no replacement worker had been sent despite his absence. But I had to start working to finish today's tasks. I figured I'd call the supervisor if no one else showed up after a little while. But about an hour later, Haruta arrived. "So, impaired with you today. Working with someone slow like you is going to be a long day," he said. His arrogant tone, despite being late, irritated me. But given what happened yesterday, I didn't want to escalate things. I simply greeted him and quickly returned to work. While I was busy working, I noticed Haruta wasn't doing anything. When I glanced in his direction, he was lying down with his eyes closed. "Are you feeling unwell? Did you get home after last night?" I asked. Haruta opened his eyes with an annoyed expression and waved his hand as if brushing away an insect. "Shut up, I'm tired. We'll get up by lunchtime, so don't bother me until then," he said in a beer-laden voice before starting to snore. How much trouble can one person cause? Judging by his state, he must have been out drinking again after last night. Even though he didn't pay at the place we went to together, he likely drank wherever he wanted afterward and is now causing trouble at work. I felt utter disdain but knew complaining wouldn't get the job done. I debated whether to contact the supervisor, but since Haruta was physically present, no replacement worker would be sent. If I reported him, I'd only end up getting scolded by Haruta later. It was clear nothing good would come of it, so I decided to work alone until Haruta was ready to join me. Resigning myself to the situation, I focused on the work. Haruta finally started working well past lunchtime. Stretching his heavy frame, he looked at me and lazily said, "That's all you've gotten done. You're as slow as ever. Anyway, I'm starving. Could you grab some ramen from the corner store for me?" I was so stunned by his selfishness that I couldn't even respond. Apparently upset by my silence, Haruta raised his voice. "Hey, are you ignoring your senior? Try stepping into my shoes, covering for someone incompetent like you. If you feel sorry, get moving." I wanted to retort but held my tongue. I stopped working, wiped my sweat, and grabbed my wallet. As usual, I'd end up paying for Haruta's snacks out of my own pocket. I was furious at the sheer unfairness, but this was the fate of anyone stuck working with Haruta. If there was a silver lining, it was that after eating his ramen, Haruta finally joined the work. Being around him was unpleasant, but even someone like Haruta was better than working alone. Thanks to my morning efforts, we managed to finish the day's work, albeit slightly behind schedule. Feeling accomplished as I started cleaning up, Haruta, who looked energetic thanks to his minimal effort, spoke to me yet again. "Let's go drinking again tonight. I've got some good news for you," Haruta said. How could he say something like that after making others do his work? I thought about ignoring him and going home, but that would make future work interactions difficult. Determined to go home today, I bluntly told Haruta, "Sorry, but I really need to call it a night today, no matter what you think. I worked more than my share today, and I didn't get enough rest yesterday either. We have work tomorrow, so I'm going home." But Haruta kept his smirk. Just as I started to find it unsettling, he put on a regretful expression and said, "Oh, really? I was planning a group date with someone we met at the bar yesterday. If you're not there, they'll be stuck alone, and the women will be left hanging. What a shame." According to him, it seemed he had added me to the group date participants without my consent. I didn't care about meeting strangers, but knowing myself, if I went home now, I'd feel guilty for not helping out. With a sigh, I said, "Fine, but I'm only staying for one round. After that, I'm going straight home. Also, don't set up things like this without telling me in the future." Though my tone was a bit harsh, Haruta seemed satisfied with my agreement. Smiling, he immediately led the way to the entertainment district. He took me to a suspicious-looking bar in a familiar building under renovation, with a construction company I recognized listed on the first floor. Inside, two women were already seated at a table, sipping beer. As we sat, Haruta loudly called out, "Sugimoto, give us the usual, and bring a bottle too." The man at the bar, who looked to be in his 50s, nodded with a sly smile and eventually brought over the drinks. Placing the drinks in front of us, he said in a gravelly voice, Sugimoto, the manager. Please take your time and enjoy your evening. Sugimoto emphasized the words take your time as he glanced at Haruta before returning to the bar. As much as I wanted to leave, I couldn't just excuse myself in front of the bar manager. I offered a polite smile and took a sip of the cocktail. While Haruta chatted happily with the women, I sat there waiting for time to pass. Though I tried to respond politely when addressed, my difficulty interacting with strangers kept me from initiating any conversations. I wasn't trying to be rude, but I probably made the atmosphere uncomfortable. Sugimoto returned to the table at a convenient moment to discuss the bill. Excuse me. If you'd like to order more drinks, just let us know. For now, we'll leave the bill here, he said. Perhaps he noticed my eagerness to leave, showcasing his skills as a manager. Grateful for his consideration, I glanced at the bill he handed me and froze. The amount written was outrageously high. Please visit us again. As an adult, make sure to pay for the services you used, Sugimoto said. Hearing this, Haruta and the women smirked and chuckled, mocking me. From their behavior, it was clear they were all in on this rip-off scheme to drain money from me. I decided to confirm things with them. Just to clarify, I said, I used the bar for 1 hour and had one drink. Are you seriously charging me $20,000 for that? Sugimoto nodded slowly in response, and Haruta added with a smirk, you'd better pay up. Otherwise, things could get messy. The manager here knows some pretty scary people who don't operate in the public eye. With a sinister smile, Haruta exchanged glances with Sugimoto. It didn't matter to me whether they had gang connections or not. I grabbed the bill, stood up, and said, got it, they'll make the transfer. If $20,000 comes in under a different name, consider it payment for tonight. With that, I headed for the exit of the bar. Behind me, I could hear Haruta mocking. What? Are you going to get your dad to pay for it? Accompanied by laughter from the women and Sugimoto. They'll regret this soon enough. Imagining their impending downfall, I left the bar. The next day's work, fortunately, was at a site separate from Haruta. I'd been stuck working with him every day recently, followed by being dragged out for drinks, so I was at my limit. Finally, I could focus on the job alongside serious colleagues. While the work may be grueling, there's a genuine sense of accomplishment when you see the transformed site at the end of the day. I was looking forward to finishing work on a good note today when, in the evening, Haruta and Sugimoto showed up together at my site. Come here for a moment. We need to talk right now, Sugimoto said, his tone urgent. Beside him, Haruta looked pale and nervous. By now, they must have realized the gravity of their mistake. Pretending to know nothing, I paused my work and replied, can we make it quick? As you can see, I'm in the middle of work. Sugimoto nodded repeatedly. Understood. Let's start properly after you're done with work. Hey, you, help out already. At Sugimoto's shout, Haruta jumped and began moving. From their interaction, it was clear that Sugimoto outranked Haruta. Haruta must have lured me into the bar to curry favor with Sugimoto. But now, they were both caught up in a serious mess. Once the work was quickly wrapped up, the three of us moved to another location to talk. So, what's this about? I'm tired, so please keep it brief, I said. At Sugimoto's signal, Haruta reluctantly began. About the $20,000 bill yesterday, what happened to it? Both of them watched my expression intently. I looked at them calmly and stated the facts. You saw the payment, didn't you? My card was maxed out thanks to Haruta, and I didn't have much in savings. So I couldn't pay it myself. That's why, as I mentioned when I left, I asked my father to handle it for now. Hearing this, Sugimoto asked hesitantly, "So, your father is—" I nodded in response. At that, Sugimoto began trembling and stammered. "I never thought had actually paid a $20,000. Did I sound serious? Would never run a RIP off bar like that." Sugimoto's fear was understandable. In truth, my father runs a real estate business. The scale of his properties is significant, and he often complains about the taxes being a burden. To offset that, he operates restaurants in some of the buildings he owns. One of those establishments is the bar managed by Sugimoto. My father's philosophy is to provide good service at reasonable prices, as he and his friends often use the restaurants themselves. Even if the business runs at a loss, it offsets the profits from real estate and helps reduce taxes. So, there's no way a bill of $20,000 would ever be charged. It's clear that Sugimoto has been extorting large sums from customers and pocketing most of it. It's easy to imagine that he worked with Haruta to bring in potential victims, including unsuspecting co-workers. Once my father learns of this, he'll either replace Sugimoto as manager or shut the bar down entirely. If that happens, Sugimoto will be out on the street. Additionally, he'll likely be forced to report all the illicit charges, repay the victims, and face legal repercussions. Perhaps seeing this future, Sugimoto pleaded with me. The amount mistakenly transferred will be refunded immediately. I sincerely apologize for my poor attempt at humor. Sugimoto agreed deeply, maintaining a polite demeanor. Haruta, following his lead, also greeted deeply, but I had no intention of forgiving them. Looking at the two greeting in front of me, I said without emotion, "You even threatened me with the idea of Yakuza involvement, so it didn't feel like a joke at all. I've already told my father everything, so if you're going to refund the money, explain the reason directly to him." With that, I turned my back on them and headed home. Realizing the severity of their actions, they resigned themselves to their fate and said nothing further. From the next day, even when Haruta and I were assigned to the same site, he stopped inviting me out for drinks. According to colleagues, had been spotted working a night job after finishing his construction shifts, likely to pay off their debts from the crime. Since Sugimoto and Haruta had worked together to scam customers and split the money, it made sense that both were equally culpable. Other co-workers were also delighted to no longer receive invitations from Haruta. Later, my father informed me that the bar's management team was overhauled. An investigation revealed that Sugimoto had extorted significant sums of money, split the profits with Haruta, and even served low-quality beer while pretending it was premium. They had inflated purchase prices to pocket the difference, leading to charges of embezzlement, trademark violations, unfair competition, and fraud. Knowing Haruta had to work night shifts to pay restitution was entirely understandable. I hope he learns to earn an honest living and repay his debts with dignity. As for me, I'm still busy working on construction sites. Until recently, I struggled with insecurities about my work. But this incident led me to reconnect with my father and gain a new perspective. My father told me, "It's because of people like you, sweating and working on site, that roads and buildings come to completion." Hearing that, I realized that while desk jobs and sales positions are commendable, the work I do is tangible and valuable too. There are countless professions in this world, but as long as the work is honest and fairly compensated, there's no hierarchy of worth. From now on, I want to continue creating things that benefit people. With that resolve, I head out to the site again today.